About a year ago, we did a short feature on one of my favorite songs ever, with a few minutes of an interview with the band members about the song. Well, I've decided now to release the full interview and the in-depth story behind this 1982 classic. Should have been a #1 hit, came close, went to #2. We'll find out who the song really is about from the group that Eddie Van Halen called collectively the greatest band on the planet. Next on Professor of Rock. Hey music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. If you love music, rock, pop, and soul, you're going to want to subscribe below to be a part of our community where you get daily content celebrating the best of the rock and roll era. And make sure to check out our links for Patreon and also for our merch below. Toto, always been one of my favorite bands. The first Toto song I remember hearing as a child was, I couldn't believe my ears. It was perfection. I remember begging my parents to hear it again and again, and then one day, I'll never forget it, my dad came home with the record. I mean, I must have listened to it 100 times in that first couple weeks. I've had the unique privilege of interviewing Steve Lukather, David Paich, 3 or 4 times. I have to tell you, it's always amazing when, the picture that you painted of a band in your head that you've loved since you were a kid, not only matches their live performances in concert, but it also lives up to who they are as human beings. Luke and Paich are 2 of the nicest guys in the industry. Not only 2 of the greatest songwriters and players in history, they also are wonderful storytellers. They're just legends. In all the conversations I've had with these guys, you can feel the respect and the admiration that they have for one another. When they put together their blockbuster 1982 album, an essential for any collector, Toto 4, they were locked in as a band. And although their #1 hit, Africa, that's become their most popular song across the generations. I bless the rains down in Africa. It's also inspired entire segments of pop culture as well. I've also felt that it was the second biggest hit from the album, the #2 classic Rosanna. A bar so high that, like I said, Eddie Van Halen remarked that Toto was collectively the best musicians on the planet. High marks from one of the greatest guitarists ever. Now, Rosanna Arquette caught the attention of millions throughout her extensive acting career. She had a lot of roles in movies. There's After Hours.
I feel like something incredible is really going to happen here.
That all they...
Desperately Seeking Susan with Madonna.
Everybody I know is desperate except you.
I'm desperate.
You?
Desperately Seeking Susan.
Nobody's Fool.
Maybe. A magical story that will make you love.
New York Stories.
You okay?
Who in the right mind would leave you?
Along the way, her magnetism and piercing blue eyes have captivated a couple of rock luminaries. There's Peter Gabriel, even Sir Paul McCartney. As many know, Rosanna Arquette was the muse that inspired Peter Gabriel's heart-wrenching masterpiece, In Your Eyes.
In your eyes, the light, the heat.
In the early 80s, Rosanna Arquette was in a romantic relationship with Steve Porcaro from Toto. Many people have assumed that the song was about her. Some have said it was about somebody else. In this interview, we're going to find out. We have David Paich, Steve Lukather, and Steve Porcaro, all 3 of them. As per usual, Toto unleashes a superlative musical frenzy in this majestic song, which we discuss. In addition to the expert musicianship of the respective members of Toto, the recording of Rosanna featured the additional all-star talent of so many revered session players. There was Jerry Hay on trumpet, Chicago's James Pankow on trombone, there was Tom Scott on sax, we just talked about him, Steely Dan, and Tom Kelly on backing vocals. What I love about this song are the different voices. I mean, Lukather sings the first verse and the third verse of Rosanna. At this moment in time, Toto was truly in their element. And they were like the 27 Yankees or the 93 Chicago Bulls. They were unbeatable. Their musicianship, their sense of melody, their songcraft, almost unprecedented. And don't forget that they had just spent the 5 years prior to that, some years after that, playing on thousands of the biggest records collectively have sold over 500 million copies and collectively have amassed 225 Grammy nominations to date, which if you think about it by today's standards is even more astounding, where nobody buys music anymore. They're just awesome. Truly, I've said it before, they're too good for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Anyway, so here's the story of Rosanna from 3 who were members of Toto during the making of that Exalted album. As we go into this interview and the story of this song, I do want to thank our sponsor, Zenni Eyewear, for helping to make this show possible. Zenni, one of the many things I love about Zenni is that they're always adding new styles, new frames, new designs. Right now, if you go to Zenni.com, you can get the season's hottest styles and then choose from a variation of greatest features, blue blocks, anti-fog, anti-glare, just to name a couple. Check it out today. I want to talk about Rosanna because for me, Rosanna is the quintessential. I love Africa, but for me, Rosanna was that song where from the beginning, shuffle. I mean, you know what song it is.
Yeah, again, without the band and this collaborative effort, it's a different song. That would be a wholly different song right now because that was going to be a Bo Diddley kind of groove in the front.
Right.
And Jeff just defined that by playing that intro.
Well, Jeff's on YouTube teaching people how to play.
Have you ever
seen that?
Putting them together, this is what it came up with.
We didn't rehearse. We never rehearsed our stuff.
Yeah.
Dave, what do you got? Dave we heard him playing the song. And then Jeff goes, well, Jeff had been listening to Led Zeppelin, Fool on the Hill. That and Bernard Purdy's Babylon System.
Yeah.
So he did his version of that.
I had been listening to Panic in Detroit with Bowie, so I wanted this doom, 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 doom. Jeff just took one look. He didn't even play that. He tried about one bar of it and said, no. He goes, let me tell you, this is how this needs to be. And he didn't sit down and analyze that like he does on the YouTube thing. He just started playing that.
Yeah, he was just
right on the spot.
We were Sunset Sound, and then Hungate was there, and he played the song. We wrote a really quick chord to it, and the second take is what you hear. That's the record.
Yeah.
Gosh.
With the solos and everything.
Yeah,
I mean,
but that whole vamp was never supposed to happen.
That's one of the first memories I have of hearing a rock and roll song where I was just like, what the hell
At the end of that, we went like, did you get...
The rumor was always that it was about Rosanna Arquette, but you wrote it about...
It was about another girl who was my first love.
Steve was dating Rosanna at the time.
Yes, and all of a sudden she came in. I think everybody anybody who met her had a crush on her, and I was no different. When she walked in and I met her, she was cute and she was gorgeous, and I just needed a title, Meet You All the Way. And I met her, and I remember just adding her name to the song.
You got to come to me if you want the real truth.
I love it.
Rosanna we all met her at the same time, especially David and I. I met her at James Newton Howard's wedding and was very much enamored with her, and she was in a relationship. And about a year after that, she was free of the relationship, and we started hanging out. She started coming over to David's house. And we weren't, you know what I mean? It wasn't preordained that that we were going to be together. She just was around. We had mutual friends, James Howard and his wife at the time. And I think everybody was a little enamored with her. You know what I mean? Yeah, and I think it inspired...
Peter Gabriel wrote In Your Eyes about her.
In your eyes, the light, the heat.
Long line of Rosanna's been kind of a zealot in that, you know what I mean?
Right.
With a lot of stuff, you know what I mean?
Outside of Patty Boyd, maybe the most written about female in pop.
He totally wrote it about it. You know what I mean? Like you wrote about a girl that you know what I mean, that you first meet leaves an impression on you.
Also on a pop song, I mean, it was actually different that would it go "You All the Way" and it goes da-na-na, da-na-na-na, and instead of singing that part,
that's right.
You were letting the instrumental come out and then.
That's old school hooks, you know. That's old school
call
stuff.
And response kind of
stuff. But it had a little more power on it because his guitars, he was at Marshalls.
At that time, MTV was doing it was all synth pop because we were around.
You were the first ones to do music videos.
Wait a second, man. We saw the first drum machine, man. Roger Lynn was a friend of ours. The Lynn drum machine. Yeah. He played guitar for Leon Russell and was his engineer. Yeah. And he had taken apart this Roland beatbox thing, you know. And me, you, Jeff, and Steve Porcaro went over to his apartment. He goes, I got this thing he had alligator cables coming out. It was all totally you know, Mickey Mouse together. And he hit play and we heard something go like kick, snare, hi-hat, do, dash, do, back, do. And it sounded like
real
drum.
drums.
And Jeff Like drop this. He goes, we have to destroy this right now. It's gonna fuck everything up. The stream goes, I have to destroy this right now.
Yeah.
And it went on to change the face of music as we knew it.
Yeah.
So we're fighting against that by doing the Toto 4 record.
And then it got synced up to synthesizers at my house because the guys that were vetting the synthesizers were living at my house, coming out of the back of the drum machines with these clocks. So all these other composers would be out there going, wow, I'm making this new music, and it's drum machines and clocks going into the synthesizers.
Like it would follow the drum machine, dong, 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 and then every record sounded like that.
The video, that was at the beginning of MTV. Actually, even before MTV when you guys filmed it.
It was just
MTV
after.
hit.
I think we did one
81.
before that.
No, when MTV hit, we had done some videos from our first record. And they were looking for content like crazy.
Right, because they didn't have enough
we had
video.
some stuff, and they played it like the first day of MTV. We were on it.
Yeah, like I think it was Hold the Line, George. I think we did everything at the Whiskey or something.
Yeah, we did. They used to call them promotional videos for overseas.
Yeah.
You just do a lip sync to your songs, then they could play it on TV overseas to promote you. So
Right.
you didn't have to go there.
But the Rosanna video, you guys kind of did that West Side Story thing before.
Well, that was the take
a year
on
or
it.
two before Beat It, before Michael did.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
there's kind of a chain of events that happened. I'd seen a Phil Collins, I think it was a Genesis video or something, and they were in an alleyway doing something really cool, and it was just reminiscent of West Side Story. I think when we met Kenny Ortega, I just mentioned to him, we just wanted to like touch upon that a little bit. And so, of course, when we came down, they had the whole scene with the jets and everybody with the jackets leaping in the air, doing this whole thing.
Steve Barron was the director of that.
Yeah,
We did Africa and that like in 2 days.
Kenny was involved, I think, as a
Kenny
choreographer.
was in the he was a choreographer.
Because we had met Cindy through the Tubes and everything like that, so we brought her in to be the dancer. Luckily, the video focuses on
Cynthia
her,
Rhodes.
you know what I mean?
Is what I'm saying, yeah.
And that whole thing with the chain link, I'd seen the Tubes live, and they had put live this chain link fence up. So I was really interested. I told them, I want to have something like that in their thing. And that's where the Beat It chain link fence came from, like the Tubes through Kenny and Rosanna, and kind of evolved and was the link on some of those. So it was kind of an interesting time.
I read somewhere that Michael, I don't know if Michael said it or somebody had just said that he kind of, because Beat It had the chain link fence, they had the kind of West Side Story thing. Maybe there was osmosis there. And
well, no, we talked about it at my house because he wanted to know where we got the idea from this. And I said, well, I was trying to do, where Toto was trying to do a kind of a West Side Story thing. And he was fascinated by that because he loved West Side Story and everything. So he went out and did the same thing.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? With the chain link fence, the group and the
that
gangs
iconic,
and everything. You know what I mean?
No,
that was verbally talked about because I think I'd been working with the Jacksons doing the Victory album at my
and I
house
played
or
on the
something.
song, so that was the irony.
I know.
We were every...
Yeah, but the middle one that you worked out.
Well, the middle one, I spent time figuring out, and then I doubled it real fast.
Oh, yeah.
And the one at the end was like one pass, was one take. Was just because that whole vamp was not written. It was not supposed to happen. That was the end of the song.
Yeah.
And Jeff broke it down.
Yeah, he just went into it. Yeah.
And then we all went through. He just said, "Okay, we're gonna jam. We're jamming." And at the end of that, it just faded out, and we just started laughing. Wow,
and Al Schmidt's in there, great. But he has the ability. He plays these solos that are totally spontaneous, but then doubles them and triples them, and it gets this sound. But I could never to doubling the solo and everything like that. You know, he's great. He's fantastic that way.
Well, also a nice man, David Paich.
Hey, I'm a truthful man. I'm not nice at all. I'm just truthful.
I mean, truth is, Rosanna should have been a #1 hit. It was still a cyclone, though, swirling all the way to #2 on the Billboard Hot 100 in the summer of '82. I'll never forget it. Stayed there for 5 weeks at #2, 5 weeks. And then it slowly descended down the survey. During his 5 weeks at #2, Rosanna was denied the top spot by 2 other classic songs, Don't You Want Me by the Human League, and Eye of the Tiger by Survivor. Two of the most popular hits of the 80s right there, and certainly deserving of going to #1. Don't You Want Me kept the #1 slot for 3 weeks during that time, and Eye of the Tiger doubled that prosperity, keeping the perch for 6 weeks. Think about that for a second, though, that top 3. Rosanna, Eye of the Tiger, and Don't You Want Me. Sometimes I just think, how? How is it possible? I don't think we're ever going to see a top 3 like that ever again. I say we cut Toto a little break here and shave a week off of one of those acts and give Rosanna number 1 for 1 week at the top of the summit in my imaginary world. So leave us a comment about Toto and this incredible song. What are your thoughts and memories? I know you have many. If you like our content, subscribe below. And if you want more content like this, make sure to check out professorofrock.com. We're going to put all of our stuff up in just a few months. Check that out. Also look at our merch. Help us keep the music alive. That's the goal. That's why we do this every single day. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth.